All right, guys, what's going on? It's Chris Desir here with 100 Agency, and I'm back with another video. This time it's part two. We're into part two. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Part two of how to time travel and do teleportation. Part one, I explained how to do time travel. So if you want to catch up with that, you should watch my other video because right now we're just jumping straight into it. How to teleport, right? First things first, what is teleportation, right? The act or process of moving an object or person by psychokinesis. Two, in fiction, instantaneous travel between two locations without crossing the intervening space. This one right here is the one I'm going to be trying to explain the most. How in fiction, how fiction can actually be reality, right? And just for the first definition, if you don't understand what psychokinesis is basically the supposed ability to move objects by mental effort alone. So when people think of trans teleportation, they kind of think of it like this. Boom, boom, like that. You're using your mind to just teleport somewhere. And it doesn't really work like that. I'm about to explain how it works. So here's the real question. How do you how do you travel through space without moving through space, right? Again, when people think about teleportation, they think only about space. Remember the formula for space-time. I talked about this in part one. In this scenario, we are trying to figure out space travel without affecting time. In time travel, we proved that you would not be able to affect the constant of space, i.e., not be able to interact with any object or change the course of any event that is not from your current unidirectional period position in time. This means when trying to factor for space travel, we are now doing the opposite. Now, time is the constant that cannot be changed. Here's the formula for space travel. Space-time minus time will give you space. An object existing, remember, if there is an object, right, it means that there is time and there's the possibility for motion. What is motion? By definition, the action or process of moving or being moved. With what we currently know about our known universe, all objects are in motion. Let me tell you what I mean here. In physics, motion is the phenomenon in which an object changes its position over time, right? Position over time. Motion is mathematically described in terms of displacement, distance, velocity, acceleration, speed, and time. All of these other things right here are factors of space. Time is the only one that is hand in hand with space, because you cannot have space without time and you cannot have time without space. All of these other things are byproducts of the laws of the universe that we currently live in. And here's another definition from sciencefocus.com. Everything in this universe is in motion because forces exist in the universe. The gravitational force and electromagnetic force ensure large objects are in motion, while the weak and strong nuclear forces ensure that the quantum world is constantly in motion. If there were no forces, there would be no motion. And I like how they say this here. If there were no force, there would be no motion. Get this through your head if you don't already know. And I talked about this in part one as well. If there is space, there is time. What is space? Space is the infinite three-dimensional realm where all objects exist. All right. If there is an object, if an object exists, there is for a fact time. If an object, if this universe had absolutely nothing in it, there would be no time. Time only exists because there is an object that you can measure to get time. Just because everything we see in our universe is in motion, it doesn't necessarily mean the presence of the object itself has to be in motion for time to exist. Like it said over here, we are the only reason we are in motion is because forces are acting against us. If there were no forces, there would be no motion, but there would still be time. I decided to make that clear, right? I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger because I know y'all can't really see this. Let's see. Cool. Right. Why is it not moving? Huh? Weird. Oh, all right, we do it like that. So how time travel would work? I said time travel. I'm gonna fix this. Space travel. Or even better, how teleportation would work. We know that time is circular and that if you have an object, time will always be passing. Just to be quick, right? I'm gonna go back to what I was talking about in part one. Time, as you can see, everything in our universe is circular. Therefore, we can also say that time is circular because all objects in this universe follow some sort of circular pattern, right? And again, universal agreements about time. Time is always passing nonstop, which is true. Time is measured in units, seconds, minutes, hours, etc. Time is only measured through the presence of space, all objects and occurring events, right? Right. So with that, we know that time is for a fact circular. And if you have an object, time will always be passing. That's not the problem here, right? The problem is that if time is always passing, right? If an object in itself exists, how does one move an object without time passing? Easy. You don't have to move an object through time if it already exists throughout time, right? When people are talking about teleportation, they are looking at their current position and asking how they can go to their desired position instantaneously. Remember what I said, right? Again, when people think about teleportation, they're only thinking about space. They're not factoring in the dimension of time that comes along with it, that is the other half of it that you can't escape, right? So if you now factor in the component of time, you can now get a much clearer idea of how it would actually work, right? In reality, you can't do that. We know for a fact you cannot teleport from one place to another place without traveling a distance. Can't do that. And as long as you exist, period, there is time. But we already know that. However, if a fourth dimensional being, right, with mastery over space and time, or time space, whatever you call it, were to teleport you, how would you experience it? How would you experience teleportation? You yourself, which are an object, would not move to the position that you wanted to be teleported to because you already exist in that position fixed for the infinite duration of time. All right. And if you remember part one and what I just explained to you, time is circular. Time is circular, right? The only way for someone to teleport you, a fourth dimensional being, the only way for that fourth dimensional being to be able to teleport you without messing with the constant of time is if you already exist in all points of time. In the case of time travel, you would not be able to interact with an object because it does not exist in the same degree of space-time that you do. In this instance, it's the opposite. Since time is passing, it does exist, or the object that got teleported, right? In this instance, the time traveler told you, I'm gonna teleport you to whatever position you wanted to be, whether you wanted to teleport 5 feet in front of you or across the universe, right? You personally would not move to that position because technically, well, not technically, in reality, you would have already been there since you exist in every degree of time, right? And just to make it clear, I'm gonna go back to what I was talking about in slide one. Again, if you look at a circle is 360 degrees, right? There is no starting point on a circle. We choose and we can pick a point on the circle and call it the starting point, but a circle is infinite. It has no true starting point, right? So let's say right now you exist in degree zero. You exist in space-time at degree zero, right? And you wanted to teleport, and a fourth dimensional being wanted to teleport you, right? From their perspective, they can pick you up you as an object from degree zero and put you in onto degree 180, right? But from your perspective, that's not possible. That's not possible because you know that you cannot, you as an object cannot travel without time passing, because you yourself are an object and you yourself you yourself indicate the existence of time, right? The only way to solve this problem is to is when he teleports you from his perspective, when he teleports you to that position that you want to go to, from your perspective, right? You have always existed in that position, which means instead of just existing at position 180, you would have to exist in every position of time, which means you would have existed from the start of time. If you want to say this point in time, zero is the start of time, you would have to exist in point zero, point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way around until you get back to 360. That's the only way you can do it without messing with time. There is no a logical fallacy. There is no paradox, right? There is no paradox if you yourself have always existed at every single point in time. There is no paradox if you already exist and you currently exist, right? But you may be saying, well, all right, how does that make sense? Again, if I'm here, if I'm here right now, and I was born, you know what I mean? I was born, I went through my life, I lived all the way up into this point. How does that mean I lived in, how do I live in every single point? Or how is there a version of me that has existed since the beginning of time, currently to now, and will exist at the end of time? And then when time restarts or whatever, because time is circular, right? How is that possible? Well, it's possible because in this instant, the constant is time, which means you can manipulate space. You cannot change time, but you can mess with the variable that is space. So in this instance, right? In this instance, since that object does exist in the same degree as time as you, and in all degrees of time, you would be able to see it, you will be able to touch it. However, you would not be able to move it. You would not be able to move it. You would not be able to break it at all. It would be immovable, and it would be indestructible. Even though you're able to touch it, right? And interact with it, like you can hit it, punch it, kick it, throw water on it, whatever, it will never, whatever you try to do to it, it will have absolutely no effect whatsoever. The particles of water, whatever thing you do, will just glide right off of it. You try to bounce light on it, it would reflect off the light. The light would hit it and just reflect back off of it. You would not be able to because you are a third dimensional being. From your perspective, in your limited abilities as a three-dimensional being, you would not be able to physically move or do anything to it, right? And think of it this way: we know that the earth is spinning. The earth is spinning. There's a day cycle, there's a night cycle, right? But what most people don't know is that the earth is spinning around the sun, and the sun is moving in a direction. We are literally the earth, the moon, everything in the solar system is following the path of the sun. Like, the earth itself is spinning, and we're spinning around the sun while the sun itself is in moving to a new position in the galaxy. Which means, right, where the earth was the day that you were born, the earth is no longer in that same position in space that it was the day you were born. If you were to teleport, right? Let's say you were to teleport outside of the hospital where you were born, right? Same again, you're in the same period of time. We're not changing time. It's the same day, same hour, same second, same whatever. Because again, when you teleport, right, in fiction, you're teleporting instantly, right? Right? From your perspective, from your perspective, that being, right, that teleported to that set position in space and time, right, it would forever be in that position. Which means even though the earth itself is moving constantly throughout space and shifting its position, it itself would not move. So let's say in the 30 years, let's say, yeah, basically that, it wouldn't move. So if the earth is here when you're born, and now you're 35 years old, the earth has moved out of the position that it was, and now it's over here. If the being, right, if you had the being or the copy of you was to teleport to that position, and then, okay, I'm not gonna say if you were to teleport. All right, so to make it clearer, to make this clearer, because I don't want to jumble up my words. Today, right now, it's 1:08 p.m. And then you wanted to be teleported to Dunkin' Donuts down your street, right? From your perspective, you would be like, what do you mean? That guy who looks like me? Well, that guy who looks like me has been in that spot. For as far as I've known, that guy's been in that spot. 30 years passes. 30 years passes. You're on the earth. The earth is still traveling through space. 30 years passes. The earth may be here. This person is going to still be in that exact same spot that he was. Even though the earth is spinning under him, turning, you know what I mean? He is not moving along with the earth. He is fixed in that same position of in space, forever, which means even if 100,000 years were to pass, 1,000,000 years, 2,000,000 years, and Earth is nowhere close to where it was in space, to where it was when you originally teleported, or when you originally were teleported, that being is forever fixed in that position. It wouldn't be floating in space, because technically it's not floating. It is fixed in that position in space for all of eternity, which means a rock could hit it, the rock is going to bounce right off of it, or the rock is going to get hit, get stuck on it, and then slowly over time roll around it, roll off of it. It could get hit by the sun, it could get hit by a black hole, it could get, hit by the Big Bang itself. The universe could explode again. It's going to stay in that same position no matter what happens to it at all. That object, that entity, whether if it is a copy of you, technically from your perspective, it's a copy. Remember, from a fourth dimensional being perspective, somebody that is a complete master of space and time who isn't affected by any of the rules, he did teleport you. From his perspective, he did take you and teleport you to a different spot. But from your perspective, you're just seeing a being, an entity, an object that cannot be messed with or interacted with in any way, shape, or form. It'd be like this. Let's say, right, this person right here, they're in a building. This building is the object that was teleported. Even though she's trying to destroy the building, right? Look, nothing is happening. She's hitting the floor, nothing happening, absolutely no damage. Or here, you have a car and you have an immovable object, in this case, a wall. All right, I'm not gonna say that once you hit into the object, that is gonna crash, the game is gonna crash, or the world is gonna break. You just wouldn't be able to interact with it. You just hit into it and not be able to move it at all. So to break down what happened in the first part and the second part, when you're trying to time travel, you can only do it and see it from the past. And everything that you do see in the past would be an illusion to you. It wouldn't be real. You still live in the present. And when you're trying to teleport, or is somebody from the fourth dimension who's a master of the fourth dimension teleports you, from your perspective, you're just seeing something that has always been there, always will be there for all of eternity. And that's it. This has been Chris Azir. Like and subscribe. Share the video if you can, and keep coming back for more content. It's not just going to be intellectual talks. It's going to be about dating advice, relationship advice, why the world the way that it is. I'm trying to build a community. I'm trying to get people thinking. I'm trying to help solve problems. If you got any questions for me, if you really don't understand something, type it in the comments. I guarantee you I'm going to get back to you. It's been Chris Azir, right? Catch you guys. Wait for it. Next time.